Section 9, Septimus's backstory and his visit to Dr. Holmes, of Mrs. Dalloway, Rezia sees the same old woman that Peter does, pitying her and wondering where she'll sleep at night. She and Septimus walk to visit a new doctor, Sir William Bradshaw. Rezia is optimistic that Bradshaw can cure Septimus. Septimus was once an aspiring poet. Unable to afford higher education, he was self-educated from public libraries. Because of a family conflict, Septimus left his home at a young age and went to London, where he met a Shakespeare scholar named Miss Isabel Pole and fell madly in love. Miss Pole lent Septimus books and encouraged his literary ambitions. Septimus took a job as a clerk. Soon, his boss thought Septimus was talented and would be promoted to a higher position easily. But the war changed everyone's plans. Septimus volunteered for the army to serve an idealized version of the England he loved. In the military, he received promotions, attracting the praise of his commanding officer, Evans. The two men developed a deep bond embedded in the atrocities of war until Evans's death in Italy. Septimus survived and felt indifferent, even coldly reasonable, toward Evans's death at the time. But he realized later, to his horror, that he could no longer feel anything, except for the occasional thunderclaps of fear. He married the cheerful young Rezia, a hat designer in Milan, and brought her back to England, but he couldn't share Rezia's enjoyment in life. Septimus, an admired veteran, returned to his clerkship, but he found the writings he used to enjoy now seemed to chronicle hatred and despair. His brain worked, he could reason, but he simply could not feel. Disgusted with human nature, he now refuses to have a child with Rezia, who badly wants one. Distraught, unhappy Rezia took Septimus to see Dr. Holmes. When Dr. Holmes insisted that nothing was wrong with him, Septimus felt there was no excuse, and he had no choice but to die, and refused to see Dr. Holmes again. Dr. Holmes still believes Septimus can make himself better if he chooses, by getting a hobby and simply deciding to enjoy life. One day, during Holmes's visit, Septimus called out for Evans, shocking Rezia. Dr. Holmes gives up on Septimus and encourages him to see Bradshaw instead. Peter sees possibility in the old woman, while Rezia sees both despair and hope, projecting the uncertainty and bleakness of her own future. Here, Septimus's history explains why he went to war, where his dream of literary England was permanently changed. If the war hadn't happened, or if he hadn't been sickly and predisposed to mental illness, he might have been a famous writer or a successful clerk. Throughout the novel, Woolf mentions the veterans from World War I and the lack of support they received upon their return. Dr. Holmes does not recognize that Septimus is suffering from shell shock, what is now called post-traumatic stress disorder, and claims Septimus has control over his thoughts and actions when he is in fact suffering from severe trauma. The backstory echoes the theme of living a life over again, as Clarissa wants to do.